Aloha. Quite often in organizations, industry, even individually in our families, we're looking at tasks at hand. In this series, Ika wā mamua, Ika wā mahope, what we are doing is we're looking back. And in our first segment, Robbie, Colbert, and Alan gave a glimpse in looking back. And what they were really revealing when they had to reflect on this organization in crisis and how to look forward is that we really needed to look at who we were and what was needed. And that most significant piece that is relevant to us in Hawaii was that what we were about to do is not work on a project, but take care of our home. And that was that connective tissue that each one of those leaders put together in their conversations that host how everything we do in our organization, and hopefully everything that you do can also be tied to that same thing. In this second portion, what we're going to have is we'll have 3 of my board members, the current chair, talk about change and what is that element of change that really is important.
Being the leader of a nonprofit organization today is not easy. How do I face the challenges of our rapidly changing society? How do I lead and evolve my organization to ensure relevancy in my community? How do I engage my board, my staff, and my volunteers to embrace the changes I need to make? Thankfully, the Oahu Economic Development Board has created a television series to help. Ika wā mamua, Ika wā mahope.
Thank you for joining us for a new program here on Olelo entitled Ika wā mamua, Ika wā mahope, which means to seek the future, we must look deeply to the past. And this is the second of a 3-part series where we sit down with prominent members of our community who have served or currently serve on the board of the Oahu Economic Development Board. And we get to hear the stories and learn from their experiences, particularly from the perspective of what occurred within the OEDB, to move them from a struggling organization into a successful and sustainable one. Challenges within businesses, companies, and nonprofits is something I know many organizations are going through. So today there's going to be insight that can help others get their companies and nonprofits to where they want to be. So in this segment, we're discussing how to use change to move forward. In our first segment, we discussed how to recognize the problems within your organizations. And now that we know what those issues are, what needs to change, and how. And we're using the OEDB as an example for others to learn from. So joining us today, we have David Tumilowicz. David is the Vice President of Public Relations, Communications, and Brand Management with Kaiser Permanente.
Thanks.
And we also have Jeff Overton. Jeff is Principal Planner with G70 International Incorporated, and he's also the current chair of the board of OEDB. And we also have with us Patrick Sullivan, and Patrick is the CEO and founder of Oceanit. So welcome to all of you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And David, let's begin with you. Communication, we know, is key to change, and how and when it's used to resolve issues within an organization is critical, and I know you understand this. So how do you affect communication internally and externally to move change forward?
I think that's a great question, and I think the place that we need to start the conversation is that we're living in a, an era of incredible change and disruption, and I think that people have a hard time navigating that sometimes, and old ways of understanding the world are maybe less relevant or need to be translated. So communications at its foundation is really just storytelling, and I think that employees or individuals are looking for meaning. It's our role as communicators to help connect people to the deeper meaning of their lives and the work that they do. For people who live in Hawaii and as adopted Kama'aina for many years, we have a real advantage in that it's easier for us to connect to the meaning of our lives and what we do, because it's there's a sense of geographic boundedness in that we're really all responsible to each other. So I think whether it's with the work that OEDB is doing to really tell a higher level story that connects people to to our community, or the role that we play as communicators within our companies to help people understand the meaning and the purpose of the work that they do. That's really all about storytelling.
And OEDB went through a lot of change, and that was not easy. So what do you say was the key to having that change accepted and then continue to move forward within the OEDB that might be able to be used as an example?
I think the thing that differentiates OEDB from maybe a traditional economic development board is traditional economic development boards are going to look at economic measures and try to drive growth, and certainly that's important. But OEDB starts from a different place. It starts from the place of asking economic development for whom? Who are we really trying to affect? And that's been the difference that I think Pono has brought, and the rest of the board. The focus.
But the interesting thing about why the change is, at the time, they were out of bullets, right? So there was no real good options. And Pono was not a traditional business person at the time, but that's what it took. Somebody was going to take a risk and try something different. And Pono's strength is going to the core values. Without necessarily knowing all the details, those values were his navigation and how he navigated back into the business community. Because I think most people in business want to do the right thing and care deeply about the community. But the way they communicated and worked together was not organized in a way that it really worked. But the change became, or was a result of, no more options. And sometimes that's what it takes to change, right? And then the right leader. Mm-hmm. Because leadership is not a little thing. In different leaders, you have leaders that can just follow a plan, and then you have leaders that can build something and make change. They're kind of different. If you got a board that wants to just follow a plan and you bring in a change guy, they don't like it. But if you got a board that says, okay, well that didn't work, we're kind of out of options, let's try this. And Pono was very brave to jump into that, because it was, I wouldn't call it a train wreck, but it was kind of a wrecking train. It was going off the track, and it probably wouldn't have kept going. And he didn't try to replicate what everybody else did. He went to the core of, I think, more values driven. So just to kind of add to that.
People who live in Hawaii, our first allegiance is to the community, and the organizations that we work for, to the extent that they serve the community, then that makes things really easy for us. And I would say what Pono has done is he's very clearly articulated that the purpose of OEDB is to serve the community, not just the concept of economic development. It's really about how do you further people's lives and organizations. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, so the problem, one of the challenges, is that people look at economic development at a very sort of a thin veneer level, but in reality it's a really deep issue. Mm-hmm. Because people want to live and be in a community where they contribute, where they're part of it, where it's vibrant, where it's accepting, where there's opportunities, right? I mean, those are the things, versus I'm just going to do a hotel or development or something, and then I'm done, right? Because then what about the people? What about affordability? What about education? What about opportunity? All of those things become part of that Rubik's, which makes it complicated. And I think Pono's approach to dealing with that complexity was to find that solid vector of value, at the core. What makes us Hawaiian? Mm-hmm. And how does this community really work? And he really channeled that and brought it into the business community. And that was really, a special thing. It's an unusual and unique kind of skill, I think, he brought to it.
Exactly, but communicating that change, communicating what needs to change.
I think it's
that's
really sure. I think it's really communicating, being able to connect to the living room, to the home, to the individual in our community, and asking the question: economic development for whom? And it's, I don't think that the answer is acceptable as just a high-level concept of development for, the purpose of driving a particular measure or whatever. We've been very concerned about, as many people have, about the sort of conveyor belt of, exporting our young kids and our talent and importing expertise, and really trying to understand what do we need to do to make sure that people in Hawaii who are here today have a bright future, and that we have certainly economic sustainability, community vibrance.
And that's that economic sustainability at the time was kind of a different concept. I don't think people were thinking like that. They were thinking about, let's become this, Silicon Valley, or let's go be like somebody else, as opposed to Pono was, let's be like ourselves. Let's be Hawaiians. Let's build this together
for ourselves, and that really goes back to sort of our first allegiance as people who live in Hawaii is to. Patrick, I mean, you've done a lot of work with Oceanit, which is a technology company,
right,
to bring people up from this community and to better position themselves for success.
And we look at it like an ecosystem. So technology doesn't live in a vacuum. It's part of a complete ecosystem, and you need all kinds of people in that ecosystem to be part of it, to benefit from it, right? It's not just one guy does a thing and he makes a bunch of money and whatever. I mean, this is a totally different thing. It's really got to be a community. It's a complete ecosystem. That concept, I think, when Pono was starting at OEDB, was not well articulated. And I don't think it was necessarily embraced in the business community. So his ability to communicate it and to kind of go deep with businesses that have been here for a while that kind of lost sight of that was a big deal. Because people lose sight of why are they doing what they're doing, and the things that drive people to do things every day.
And good communications ties people to that, to the why of what they're doing. And in my recent career, I've been very lucky to work for two companies that are deeply invested in the community and have as their first commitment serving the community, whether it was at a media publishing company, Hawaii Business Magazine, where it was really about stimulating conversations to help us have a brighter future, or more recently at Kaiser Permanente, where the focus is on serving not only our members, but improving the health of everyone in our entire community. So it's very easy for me in the roles that I've had, and I feel very privileged to be in roles where I didn't have to make a choice between serving the community and as an island person, there's a sense of geographic boundedness that makes that very easy to kind of understand, or serving the goals of a company, and being able to kind of bring those together. And I think that's the challenge, frankly, for all companies, and particularly, in the Asian, there's a lot of conversation around millennials, and really they're needing to understand the social purpose of the work that they do. This is not a new concept for us.
Sure.
This has been a part of our DNA here, in Hawaii. It's one of the deepest truths, sort of our culture, that comes first, and then from there, as communicators, making sure that individuals, employees, stakeholders understand that deeper meaning, and then are motivated by that and deliver against that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. And let's turn to Jeff now. As the current chair of the board, from your view, what is essential to organizations and individuals in Hawaii as we look to our economic and natural resource future?
Yeah, thanks, Jill. So it's just such a blessing to be able to work with a talented group as sort of new chair of OEDB, taking over from the founding group and Robbie and others that really led us forward to today. So it's a real challenge. We have such great potential in Hawaii, and we're talented people, big ideas, natural resources, investment capital, the best place in the world to live. But for the last 20 years, we've had a lot of focus on sustainability as a community and within business and government, but we're dealing with different perspectives of our future going forward. And it's really about this vision, what type of actions will shape, and creating a balance, really. So my cohort here are talking about community and how we're serving that. Our businesses, our government, and community are all intertwined. And we've struggled with many core initiatives in Hawaii over the years. And it's really transportation, land use, housing, diversifying our economy. What's the next chapter for agriculture? all these really big questions that we have before us. It's very exciting. We've spent tremendous resources going through the struggles to advance many of these initiatives. And unfortunately, a lot of times we have opposing factions that emerge that stymie our ability to move forward with these initiatives. And as a result, we failed to advance many of these opportunities. And at the center of each of these conflicts is really relationships, people, our neighbors and our community. What can we do to help? And so as an organization, as many organizations look to the leaders like we do here at OEDB, the leaders were asking, what do we do best? What is our core mission? How can we address these needs of the community going forward? What are the real conflicts that are stopping these initiatives from going forward? What's holding us back from going on these? So at OEDB, we're fortunate we have this wide representation of leaders from business and education and government and the institutions, and we share a common perspective that on these tough issues, if we're going to help our community forward on this path, it's about connecting, listening, and understanding, and the people and the relationships. And so it sounds kind of simple from
Right.
the outset and obvious, but really it takes real effort to engage and patience and caring to make this happen, and to hear both sides of an issue and try to connect up more honestly, sometimes with tough news or a tough result for some party, but shape the positive direction going forward from this effort. And there are many groups in Hawaii that are making progress towards initiatives, and these guys here are leading organizations that are part of that. Housing, education, energy, all these pieces, transportation, this new age of agriculture. In just these few minutes here today, I'd like to say OEDB is helping to advance these. We're doing a part in advancing several of these, and one of them is our new market tax credit programs, where we've helped with over $30 million of investment in economically disadvantaged areas to help advance certain projects. So we're kind of the seed starters of some great things that are going on, not just on Oahu, but statewide in there. And then as important as Patrick and David have mentioned, leadership growth is a big focus of the organization, in helping to positively influence the community, connect people, mentoring through this process, and staying relevant with these issues. And as an organization, we have this great board, so there's a very active, vibrant connection among the members that we're evolving in this second generation of the organization. So building the relationships in this group, serving as advisors or mentors to each other, teaming, mentoring, and just that connection. So 2019 here and looking forward, it's a super positive future for us as an organization. We're very, very hopeful for a great future, and we know we have to continue to listen closely and stay on track, building the mission.
Absolutely. So relationships are the key, is what you said, and that's somewhat what you've touched on as well.
And I think it's, just starting from a place of commitment to Hawaii, and, in the midst of an era of great change is the huge understatement. The sense that we're buffeted by forces outside of our control, and what do we need to do to convene and to collaborate and to work together to define our shared future together. And I think that it's clearly work in progress, right? But OEDB's role in being helping to convene and to be a neutral space to start to have these conversations. But the more important piece, I think, is the ability to elevate the conversation, so that we are all looking at things from a higher level, from the perspective of commitment to Hawaii and our people and our unique culture. How do we translate that culture into a new era, and how do we hold on to the things that are important to us and perpetuate them?
Right.
Yeah.
So having the relationship, having communication, is that something that's unique to Hawaii do you think we have a special?
I think we're uniquely advantaged in being able to have
Advantaged.
those conversations. You know, I personally, I've always felt that, you know, Hawaii, because I think of the geographic boundedness and the scale and the ability to have deep relationships with people in the community, it is easier for me to wrap my mind around than something that's occurring in a global context or on the mainland, or where there's not that same sense of us and shared future. And so back to OEDB is unique because it starts with a commitment to Hawaii and its people, and it is also about economic development and economic sustainability, but it starts with that commitment to Hawaii and its people.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's hear from Patrick. Patrick, growing in an organization is part of change, but how does an organization go about finding the right people to serve, and what inspired you about the direction of OEDB to have you join the board of directors back in 2009?
So I was involved in the prior organization, then stopped participating because I felt it wasn't moving in the right direction. And then when I first met Pono, we talked about what we do, and we told him we're essentially, we invent the future with technology innovation. So I said, you know, what we do is we're about education and imagination, and then bringing that to the world. So we look at the global market, and the key thing that makes us work is Hawaii, the culture, the people. The biggest secret weapon in Hawaii is the people, which is overlooked all the time. And we're doing work in the Middle East, in Europe, and a whole bunch of places. All of it's invented right here. So we've discovered this thing where you unlock what's inside people. These are mostly local people. They're incredible. And so when I met Pono, we were talking about what we do, and we said, look, we see that, in our opinion, Hawaii, it's got innovation in its DNA. We forget that. We sometimes think that everybody else does that, but we actually have a lot of that going on here. But we just undervalue that. Pono just really reacted. He said, that's exactly right. You know, we're building a future. We're not trying to go back, we're trying to build forward. And so I said, then I'm there and I'm with you. So as he was trying to figure out what to do, it was kind of like, okay, how do we pull this off, right? And because an economic development board is essential, we think, for the community. It helps to connect people, communicate, create awareness and prioritization of things that are important, because it's hard to do everything at once, so you know which are the things you focus on. And Pono was able to not only understand how technology is part of the future, how it creates a more diverse economy, how it creates opportunities for people, addresses housing and all of these other things, but to connect that together with the rest of the business ecosystem. He had to create new methods. So the way to think about it is it's this Darwinian view of business. The world keeps changing. We have to keep evolving. So the prior group was not really evolving. But to evolve, you have to listen carefully. You have to pay attention to what's going on. What's the world saying? And so like the new market tax credit was really good, because I said, we can't be victims. We have to get ahead of this and actually create things. So new market tax credit was a part of a tool in a toolbox that he's been building on how we actually engage the economy across all sectors. So it's not limited to tech. It's not limited to, you got healthcare and tourism and banking and finance. You got all these things. This is our ecosystem, and we need to have it vibrant, so that across the entire business enterprise in the state of Hawaii, we have successful businesses that are not only serving the community, like in our case, we look at serving the planet. How do we help make the world a better place? Our thing is impacting humans and society with technology. OEDB creates a framework to express that, but it's not just about any one business. It's all businesses that can work together. So it's kind of not to oversimplify, but Pono was very good at saying, okay, we got everybody in the canoe going to paddle together. And that simple concept is powerful. We weren't paddling together before. And to get everybody to paddle together, the canoe goes way faster. That's what he was able to bring to this. So it's, again, sounds simplistic, but we really weren't in the same canoe even, let alone paddling together. And so what we see is OEDB, I think, is a great example for the whole state when it comes to economic development. So although it's a Oahu economic development, Pono is not shy to share with the rest of the state. And I've been with him and things too. I mean, it was funny. We did this event in D.C. and we got a room in the Capitol and invited. Really, there's this incredible Hawai'i network, and we put the word out. Place was packed, hundreds and hundreds of people from across government and businesses. It's all, how can we help? How can we be part of this future? We might be people located in different places, but we want to see Hawaii be successful. He's been able to sort of pull that together and channel it. So the New Market Tax Credit is really just one piece of a portfolio of tools that OEDB is building to really build the future, not be a victim of what's going on, but to create the future. And David was talking about this issue of this idea that we need to export our kids and import expertise. You know, what we've seen is that the local kids, you know, we've had like 500-600 interns over the years, and really super bright kids usually in some technical, you know, engineering or science or something, but undergraduate, graduate level, they're incredible. But you give them the space to be awesome. And so what Pono's doing essentially is in the business communities, creating that space to allow people to be awesome. But we got to work together.
Right.
And that's something that, again, it sounds silly, but to get that right is not easy. And so he's been, I would say, brilliant at doing that. You know, he comes across as kind of like, you wouldn't know it necessarily. You look at him, you say, well, what's this? He is a master. He is really an amazing guy at this. And not only at storytelling, I mean, he's an incredible storyteller, but he's able to kind of connect. So the subtleties, the nuance of things, he's able to channel that, and he's doing that in the business community.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Jeff. Thank you, David,
Thanks.
for sharing your insight. And I think this is incredible, the important information that other organizations can definitely use towards moving ahead and moving forward. So please join us for the third part of our series, where we will discuss creating the future. We recognize the issues, made the necessary changes. Now what's next? So for more information about the Oahu Economic Development Board, and if you'd like to have OEDB come and talk to your company or board, you can contact them through their website, oedb.biz. Aloha.